Rip through the clouds, faster, catch us from falling close to the ground. Perish or try to fight it, parachute now. Last chance, the final moment, parachute now. And deliver us to the ground. I wanna pull the string. On and on, I feel the speed. Too far to break from pressure. Too much to bend the speed.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 43 of the Chris Perish podcast. My name is Chris Perish, and I have to start off by thanking our beautiful sponsors, Rogue Energy, where if you go to rogueenergy.com and you want to check out their beautiful flavors like I do, hell, if you even want to get some of the beautiful shakers like this green one right here, yeah, that's right, you can see Rogue right there. Make sure you go check out rogueenergy.com. You go check out all their beautiful flavors. You might want to check out some of their samples because they don't have just energy. They also have hydration, where all you have to do is dump that powder into a cup, add water or milk. Make sure you read your label. Stir and enjoy. But make sure at that checkout screen, you're using yourself a promo code that I am personally giving you. It is Perish, Perish, and you can save 10% off on your order. That promo code again is Perish, Perish, for that perfect 10% off. And we also want to make sure we give a shout out to our friends over at Turnbuckle Studios, where we are part of the Turnbuckle affiliation program, and you can also become part of the affiliation program by going to affiliationprogram.my.canva.site. That is affiliationprogram.my.canva.site. Now, you guys want to know what is on tap today? Well, guess what? We are predicting more championships, but this time TNA. We are predicting who beats the current people from Total Nonstop Action out, as we has Artie Pistolas. I hope I pronounced that right. Live from Australia. Thank you so much for joining. Whereabouts from Australia, and how did you hear about this channel? We welcome you here to the Chris Perish podcast. Just to give you a little bit of a rundown of what this show is about, we do cover a lot of various topics of pro wrestling. If there are any questions you have that you would like answers to, I am generally an open forum, but make sure that they're respectful, make sure that they're courteous, or you will be removed from the chat. But yeah, we are going to be predicting who becomes the next TNA champions all through the World Heavyweight title, the Knockouts title, Knockout Tag, etc. We're also going to talk a little bit about Jey Uso winning his first championship in the singles realm in WWE, as he became the Intercontinental Champion on Monday by defeating Braun Breaker in a fantastic main event match. We'll also be talking about the little drama between the contract situations between Rey Fenix and Penta. Are they WWE? Will they be WWE? Where do we see that going? And then I am 4 episodes in of the Vince McMahon documentary, and I have watched a lot of other people's podcasts, and let me tell you, I have some different opinions about this. But let's start off with Jey Uso winning that Intercontinental Championship, because anybody really predict that? I mean, we all thought Braun Breaker was going in. He was going to retain the title. It was going to be a great match, but we didn't think Jey Uso was going to win. We didn't think they were going to take the title off Braun Breaker just after 7 weeks. Oh, we're so accustomed to these long title reigns, right? Wrong. Jey Uso not only defeats Braun Breaker, but he does it cleanly. It's a straight up 1-versus-1 matchup. No tomfoolery, no shenanigans. But what we saw was a change in the guard for that Intercontinental Championship. What we saw was one of the most popular superstars on the Monday Night Raw brand, and in fact, all of WWE, get a crowning achievement. And by doing so, you haven't ended the story between Jey Uso and Braun Breaker. In fact, it's really just got started. And what I love about this is right away, you started off with a bang. You know, there's belief in Jey Uso. Now you can never win the big one. You've always needed your brother. You've always needed somebody. That's been erased. We have Chris Best joining us saying, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you too. So Jey Uso definitely got those doubters out of the way. And by doing so, not only did he shock everyone, but what he was able to do is almost reshape a landscape that we were really not sure. Yeah, you could just sit back and be like, who's next for Braun Breaker? And we can run down the roster page and say this person, that person. We can say, hey, maybe this person returns. Maybe this person debuts. But really, what's a meaningful thing for Braun Breaker in that title? Well, now I think we've got one. And no, I don't think this was a one-off. In fact, I think Braun Breaker is probably going to go on a little bit of a spree on Monday. So I think that's something to look forward to. And also, people, tomorrow, the last 3-hour Monday Night Raw of 2025. Think about that one. So make sure you're checking out the Raw Patrol on Turnbuckle Studios and other platforms for that. But yeah, no, Jey Uso winning that championship. Now he has an abundance of people to feud with, whether it is Braun Breaker, and we are continuing that, or maybe we look at a Bronson Reed. Maybe we look at somebody from the Judgment Day. I mean, right away we have 3 people. You can even run back with Chad Gable, because that would be a fresh matchup, Chad Gable versus Jey Uso. So there's a lot of people there. Also, what it does too, it establishes a little bit more meaning to whenever WWE decides to do a tournament to decide a number 1 contender. As we saw that there was plenty of triple threat matches in a tournament form to determine a number 1 contender, which Jey Uso ultimately won, and then received that Intercontinental title match against Braun Breaker and defeated him, and it validates the tournament style a little bit more. We're seeing this more often with the WWE, and it makes your time spent feel validated, because now it's, hey, I watched this tournament from a month ago and it's actually meant something. It actually goes to something. And I think that's very, very good from the WWE, and it feels very nice from a viewer standpoint. Chris Best coming in saying, I think Braun destroys everyone in his path just to get a rematch. And I think that's exactly it. Like we've been seeing Braun Breaker kind of viewed as this uncontrollable force on the Raw roster since he's joined Raw. And I think it's just one of those things where we're just going to add more character development. Is he going to show cracks in his armor because he's now vulnerable, because he's lost again over the Intercontinental title? Remember, he lost his first attempt at that championship versus Sami Zayn. So Does he show a little bit of desperation? Does he show a little bit more, hey, maybe I will play ball just to get what I want? Does he smarten up? Does he get a fresh coat of armor? Does a loss actually make him better? So that's going to be questions we see from Braun Breaker. Or do we see him just go a different pathway for the time being? Because that mid card on Raw, it's pretty deep when you think about it. Especially when you add the likes of Sheamus and Pete Dunne to it. And then I've added, we got Sami Zayn, who could still float around there. Yes, he is in the conversation for the world heavyweight title right now, but I mean, he can float between the two. Chad Gable. We got Ludwig Kaiser as well. Bronson Reed, and Braun Breaker, Jey Uso. And there's more, like Otis, if you want to count him. He could become a viable person. Do we see anybody from the Wyatt Six go there? So that's something to also kind of look at. Do we see... Oh, yeah, and then anybody from the Judgment Day, whether it's Finn Balor, whether it's Dominic Mysterio, whether it's maybe even JD or Carlito. And then you got anybody from the LWO, like Rey Mysterio, or even either one of that tag team. So there's a lot of people who very well could be in position to vie for that Intercontinental Championship. And that's a great sign for that. And you almost want to have a popular figurehead like Jey Uso at the charge there, because now the target's on his back. When you become a champion, the target is on your back. Everybody wants what you have. You become more of a desired opponent because of that piece of gold around your waist. What it does for Braun Breaker, I don't know, because he hasn't been known for a transitional champion, and 7 weeks isn't a long reign, and we're getting a little too accustomed for long reigns. But that's okay, because now when we do get them, they feel that much more important. And the person who is a part of that, or the duo who's a part of that, they feel, or he or she feels more special now because of this reign. And I think that's a good thing. It also allows Monday Night Raw to, have a little bit more unpredictability to it, because now we're getting a title switch on free television, which I'm going to pose this. This very well could be the last time the Intercontinental Championship has been won on cable. Take a moment to let that sink in. The last time, which is hilariously ironic that, for me, the last time the Raw had an Intercontinental title switch, March 11th, 2019. Bobby Lashley, Finn Balor. I say ironic because that's my birthday. But so yeah, think about that. It's been 5 years since we've seen the Intercontinental title switch. Now, granted, but that championship has been on SmackDown for a good chunk of time too. But to think about that could be the last time the Intercontinental Championship has been won on a Raw on live television. That, I think, is something unbelievable, and that very well could be an historic event, not just for the individual accomplishment of Jey Uso, but for the whole landscape of WWE. And I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Jey Uso. Let me hear your thoughts on Braun Breaker. But before you do so, I want to kind of pause your mind for a second, because if you're watching us, like Chris Best is on the YouTube side, if you're watching us from the Facebook side, like our buddy Ari. You want to make sure that you're hitting that like button. You want to make sure you hit that subscribe button. You want to make sure you hit that follow button, that notification bell. Or you want to make sure you like that video, and you want to make sure you show some support to the Chris Perish podcast during the live streams. You can also check out the Chris Perish podcast live on Spotify, always after the live stream. And we also have all 42 previous episodes on Spotify as well. So make sure you're checking us out on Spotify. Make sure you give a like, a follow, all that good stuff. And, comment. If you like it, let me know why. If you don't like it, let me know why. Let me know what you think this show can do better. Because I want to know. I want to make this show enjoyable for everyone. So I'm open to your train of mind. Now, unpause that thought process I asked you to do, and let me know what you think about Jey Uso, the Intercontinental Championship, and Braun Breaker as we move towards our next topic, and that is Rey Fenix isn't exactly able to leave AEW right now. The rumor comes out saying that he has injury time added to his contract and therefore won't be able to sign with the WWE for up to a year. Now, Penta is rumored to have a little bit of injury time added towards his contract as well. I've been hearing a lot of people call this pettiness. A lot of people call Tony Khan a hypocrite because he's supposed to be the alternative, and now he's just doing stuff that quote-unquote Vince did. I'm also going to look at it from another perspective too, just to have a little fun with it. But I think, too, this could be a negotiation tactic as well for Tony Khan, because we saw this very much with the WWE and the grizzled young veterans, where a release was asked. They said no. We saw injury time added. And the whole time we did see an attempt from the company to try to negotiate an extension, try to mend fences on the relationship end. And I'm not saying that that's the reason. I'm not saying that this is exactly why, because who really knows the exact reason to this? You can have your opinion. That is fine. Doesn't mean it's factual knowledge. It could be a combination of everything, but at the same time, what we know are the facts, and that is that both men have openly, just from an action standpoint, just from their actions alone, they've openly expressed desires to leave AEW. And the company has, from an action standpoint, expressed desires to keep them in AEW for the time being. The reason why might not be as obvious. It could be pettiness. It could be we don't want you working for the other company. It very well could be just a personal vendetta. It could also be that, but it also could be a negotiation tactic by Tony Khan, by AEW, to say, look, we know right now this relationship isn't the healthiest it is, but we feel that if maybe we add this time, time can heal these wounds. So by the time this injury time has been finished by your contract, maybe you aren't thinking, I want to leave. Maybe you are thinking you want to stay. And I do think Tony Khan does want them to stay with AEW. And I do think he has good intentions for why. They add a lot to his product. They add a lot to his tag division. They add a lot to the business model that is AEW. Now, are there things that WWE can do for these for this duo? Absolutely. We saw just how much WWE changed the game with merchandise sales with Rey Mysterio after WCW. You know, I don't think anybody from WCW thought one day Rey Mysterio was going to be World Heavyweight Champion. Well, WWE at one point did. WWE at one point understood how much licensing the mask of Rey Mysterio and distributing that to fans, especially kids, how beneficial that could be to the future of your viewers. And those are just examples of what WWE can do for Rey Fenix and Penta. So it's going to be very intriguing within the next year. Do we see the Lucha Bros leave AEW and come to WWE? And better yet, do we see them debuting together? Or do we see Penta first and Rey Fenix second? It's going to be a very intriguing thing. Or, you know what? Do we see them eventually re-signing with AEW? And I think everything is an open idea right now. I think nothing is off the tables yet. I mean, right now they're AEW contracted performers, so it doesn't really matter about what we read online because that's not going to change anytime soon. So the nice thing about this is that we have a little bit of clarity on kind of the right now for both, but also to let's enjoy the time we have left with whether or not they are going to be on AEW programming, if they are even on it. But then let's get excited if they don't stay there. If you're a WWE fan, get excited for what to expect. I mean, we're seeing Julia set to make her CW debut, just like NXT is. She is vying for her first championship in NXT on Tuesday. We are seeing Stephanie Wagner be added to the mix as she basically said she had next. So we're seeing the debut of two international women in the NXT. It's only time where we see Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin enter the tag team market for the WWE. And then potentially down the road, we see the Lucha Brothers. And that's not even saying, oh, yeah, Hikuleo is going to be introduced to the WWE audience. We're going to get the returns of Alexa Bliss, Carmella, Raquel Rodriguez, Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins on SmackDown this week, AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura. That's a lot to look forward to, if you ask me. So do I think it's pettiness? Do I think it's a negotiation tactic? If you ask, hey, Perish, just answer the question. What do you think it is? I think it's business. At the end of the day, it's a loophole that you can use. Now, you can be disappointed on Tony Khan if you're an AEW fan and you wanted to see them actually be an alternative and not do the quote-unquote shady stuff, but I don't think it's shady at all. If it's a loophole, it's part of it. It's something you're legally allowed to do. Now, do you have to like it? No. But guess what? There's a lot of things about business that we don't like, but it's the honest truth. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this is what we know. This is what we have to expect. And now, do we see this happen more? Miro's reportedly has asked for a release. Do we see injury time added to his contract? If Malachi Black or Adam Cole want to go back to WWE, do we see injury time added to their contracts? Is this starting a precedent for other talents in AEW? That, to me, is something that I'm more worried about, because at the end of the day, I think we want to see the performers do what they want to do, and that is perform. And another note, we also could be looking forward to Danny Garcia and Ricky Starks in WWE. And Jimmy Uso. And Paul Heyman. There's a lot of people. A lot of people. So when you think, oh, SmackDown, 3 hours? Is Raw going to go back to 3 hours? Yeah. There's a lot of people to put on your screen. So yeah, we're going to add that 3rd hour back in 2025 for Raw. I guarantee it. We saw that NXT not only are going to be debuting on the CW, but now their rating is new TV 14. That was announced just recently, and we now have more of a clear picture on the branding for NXT. Now, the reports are also that they could be ditching the gold and going to a black and silver type thing, which, I mean, I think we all know how I feel about the color combination of black, white, and gold. But at the same time, I understand it too, just from a rebranding standpoint. You know, you can't always have a similar color scheme. Sometimes you do need to change it up. Just look how much a revitalized Hulk Hogan looked when he ditched the yellow and red and went with the black and white. It was pretty important as well. Chris Best coming in and saying SmackDown getting 3 hours will definitely allow for a deeper mid-card and a deeper tag division for both the men and women. And yeah, and we're also going to see the potential opening of mid-card women titles too. And then now with the 3rd hour, and that's something that you can very much be more open to, because when you have a tight schedule on a 2-hour show and you're just like, oh man, it's hard just to have everybody on as it is. Sometimes we have to, go every 2 weeks instead of every 1 week for some people. Now we want to add another championship. I mean, yeah, no, but a 3rd hour, you have a chance to breathe. You have a chance to exhale, like I'm about to do, and swig a little bit of blue raspberry Rogue energy. Delicious. So yeah, it's going to be fun. 2025 is going to be a big year, a very big year. But that doesn't mean that the next 3 months of 2024 are just going to be a walk in the park. No, they're going to set up for what 2025 is. So it's going to be a lot of fun, because remember, it's all about long-term storytelling now inside the WWE. Speaking of the WWE, Vince McMahon's Netflix special. First off, we all know that the biopic featuring Vince McMahon didn't happen. I think this was pretty much the next idea. With all the recent news and allegations about Vince McMahon, we all assumed that this was going to be something to talk about. The scandal, the allegations, are they true? Like, are we going to get more dirt? Are we going to get more information? Are we going to find out more? Is Vince McMahon truly an asshole? Is Vince McMahon maybe more of a good guy than what we perceive? Here's the thing, people. It says right at the beginning, when you watch this, all the interviews were taped in 2021, well before these allegations, well before any of this, just right in the minds of the time where you had this perception of Vince McMahon. That's the honest truth. So were they going to talk about any of the legal investigation, that open investigation that's going on? No. And guess what? Even if they could, I'm sure they'd be restricted, potentially even unable to. I believe in the United States, correct me if I'm wrong, it's illegal to talk about the details of an open investigation to the public. So I don't know even if that was plausible. But basically what we did get, and what we are getting, as I said, I'm only 4 episodes in, we're getting Vince McMahon just sit down and talk about, his life. And we're seeing other people talk about it. We're seeing other people talk about, what they think. Like guys like Bret Hart, who notoriously is known for kind of saying his piece. We're getting Tony Atlas. We're getting Stephanie McMahon, Shane McMahon, Triple H. We even saw Wendy Richter. We're seeing a lot of people being interviewed. Well, now Jim Ross, as he was pouting on Twitter about it. Like, boo-hoo. You didn't get asked. Look in the mirror. Maybe there's an issue there. But at the end of the day, what did you expect? Like, what was your true expectations watching this? And I think that's the question you have to ask yourself. Honestly ask yourself that. What was my honest expectation watching this? Did I want to get something? Did I want to get validation for my opinion on Vince McMahon? Did I want it validation onto why I shouldn't be thinking this about Vince McMahon? I don't think the issue here was Vince McMahon. I think it's the way you perceived him, and you either want to be told, yeah, you're right, or maybe you're wrong. I think that's what it more or less boils down to. At the end of the day, Vince McMahon, he's a cutthroat, vile businessman. I mean, from the beginning, he expressed how much he had no problem stepping on the toes of the territories to get to what he had. I mean, well, first off, yes, I would. Because he was a very long tenured employee of Vince McMahon over the years, good and bad, and did a lot for the WWF and for WWE. Whether or not he is a nightmare to deal with or not, I'm sure that there's a lot of people in the business that are. But at the same time, all these interviews can be edited good or bad. It's not like these interviews were edited to make Vince McMahon look like the second coming of Jesus. It didn't at all. It also didn't make him look like the devil's favorite demon. What's up, Kane? It just showed that Vince McMahon he had a vision of what he wanted to do. He was very open about when WCW went live, how he was scared. He admits that he had father issues. Which is ironic because his son ended up having those same concerns that he did about his dad, which that was a heavy thing. Yes, I'm in 4 episodes in, but I have seen clips of everything. But it also shows you how stupid he was with a lot of subjects. It also shows how careless and how egotistical and how moronic a lot of his ideals were. Now, you can have your opinion, and that's fine. Opinions are fine. But to come on and say, this gave us nothing to what we wanted to have, and it's like, well, yeah, no kidding. It was taped in 2021. The majority of this doc was recorded before the allegations of Janelle Grant came out. So you're not going to get anything about it. If you thought you were, and you're mad you didn't, that's on you. It doesn't make Vince a bigger a-hole, or it doesn't make him a better person out of it. It just makes him the same. Good or bad. Not to mention, this was a documentary that tried to peel off the skin of the character of Mr. McMahon and show you a little bit more about Vince. And whether or not you thought there was any difference, whether or not you thought that there was a difference, that's really your opinion. Now, it's hard. He blurred the line. But I want to take this as a perspective out of this, though, too. He has been someone that went through just about everything you can possibly go through as a businessman and barely sat down and talked about it. He had one episode with Pat McAfee where he did. Now he has this. He's gone on some shows in the past, but let's be frank, he wasn't there to talk about his feelings or his home life. It was mainly there to talk about WWF or WWE. So, I don't know. Do I want to be associated with him? No. No, I don't. But at the same time, as a wrestler and a wrestling fan, I can appreciate what he's done to the world of pro wrestling and sports entertainment. Because without his involvement, I don't think I can necessarily have a dream to go into pro wrestling. I don't think I could have a dream to become good in the podcasting aspect where I talk about wrestling. And I don't think I would have met a good chunk of the people in my life if it wasn't for wrestling. And that all was really because of the vision he had of turning pro wrestling into sports entertainment. So, I just don't I don't have to like how he's done things. I don't have to like everything about him. But at the same time, I also don't have to hate him. And I just choose not to have hate in my life. Except for the Calgary Flames and Atlanta Falcons and Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Carolina Panthers. Outside of that, though, I don't hate anything. Well, and fruit beer. But, yeah. I think at the end of the day, I'm just saying have an open mind when you're watching this Netflix thing and make sure you're getting all the information out of it. Just don't pick the parts of the information that you want out of it. If you're just going to watch it and you got a perception about the guy and it's a negative thing, don't just come out of it with all the crap that they talk about him. Why don't you tell me some of the stuff that, he actually did well at? Made $1 billion company. That's pretty impressive. So yeah. I don't know. Earlier in the show, we did play a little video about what to expect with Turnbuckle Studios. I'm going to do it again because I needed time to get ready, and videos are a great excuse for me for that. So I'm going to play the calendar right now one more time to show you what Turnbuckle Studios and its affiliation channels have for this upcoming week. So here we go. And that is what we have coming up. So make sure you check everything out, starting with the Raw Patrol. I bought Paw Patrol cookies yesterday. They're delicious. Also to think, hey, does Raw Patrol have anything to do with Paw Patrol? No, they're completely different. I don't understand where you got that idea. But the idea I did get was predicting who I thought all wrestling champions were going to lose their titles to. And we are now with the TNA. We did WWE last week. I did AEW. Now I'm going to do some TNA, some total nonstop action. And I am going to start with the Digital Media Championship. And that is a championship held by PCO. And who do I think beats him for the digital media? Well, he's a little weird. He's a little nutty. He's basically Jekyll and Hyde come to pro wrestling. And I think we need somebody that could kind of counter that, but then bring it back into the wrestling landscape. I got Sami Callihan as your next digital media champion. Now, if you want to play along and you want to guess as well, feel free. Next up, I have the Tag Team Championships, and that is currently held by the System. And I have, for no reason alone, but just because they always seem to have a harder contest with the faster, smaller guy. I mean, they did lose their titles at Slammiversary to ABC. Ace Austin and Chris Bay. So I have the Rascals defeating the System to become the next TNA Tag Team Champions. And staying with tag team action, I got the Knockouts Championship here. And we have Threat and Luna being your tag team champions right now. And here's where I think I'm going to get historic. I think for the first time ever, we're going to see in this TNA and WWE affiliation, two companies actually coming together. One of the biggest conversations was, is a WWE superstar going to win a TNA title? Or are we going to see somebody from TNA win a WWE title? Well, right here, I have Wendy Chu and Rosemary coming together, forming a tag team and winning the Knockout Tag Team Championships. We're always wondering which single entity is going to win a championship in the other company first, but we have not talked about a duo coming together. And now I know specifically it's just an NXT person winning a TNA title. Yes. But we haven't seen forces like this yet. Now, we've seen friendships like Joe Hendry and Trick Williams, but we haven't seen a tag team formation. And that's why I think this is different. Wendy Chu or Rosemary, I have becoming your next knockout tag team champions. Mike Speedball Bailey has the X Division Championship as he won it back from Zachary Wentz, who won it at the Ultimate X match. And I went in a different route, as I already have Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel winning the tag team championships. I went a different route because it's like, okay, how can we go in a different way? What would be a good threat to Speedball Mike Bailey here? And that's when it hit me. Mike Santana. We haven't seen... I mean, we're getting enough out of Mike Santana, but we haven't seen anything. I think he's kind of like in a smaller way. He's kind of like your version of Jey Uso. Just without the huge popularity right now. If you added Mike Santana with Joe Hendry's popularity, I think it's almost a mirror image of each other. But yeah, I think Mike Santana makes the X Division Championship different. He's able to find himself even more, I think, with that X Division Championship. And I think that's a good thing. Next, I have the Knockouts Championship. And this one was actually the hard one for me because I was going through the landscape and I was like, oh, okay. And I was only doing it because I didn't really know who realistically is going to beat Jordan Grace for this championship. And then it hit me. Masha Slamovich. I think she makes all the sense in the world. Especially if there's a little tomfoolery from the WWE NXT sides of things and helps Jordan Grace lose this match. Yeah, that's right. I'm thinking if a Prodigy, when she loses her NXT Women's title on Tuesday to Julia, Roxanne Perez, I think she then turns her attention on getting back at Jordan Grace. And what better way to cost her that Knockouts Championship? And I think, because if the rumors are true, and that is when Jordan Grace's contract ends, she will sign an extension to that contract, but it would be for the WWE, or maybe she has. I don't know. I've heard that. I don't know the plausible things, but I've heard that she will be WWE bound once her current deal with TNA expires. This could be a very great way of slowly bringing Jordan Grace into that fold. And then you can have that go running because let's face it, Julia versus Jordan Grace or Stephanie Baker and Roxanne, that could be a very heavy hitting foursome over that NXT Women's title. And then next up, I have Nick Nemeth as your TNA World's Champion. Now, I think everyone, including Chris Best, was like, Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. It has to be Joe Hendry. I got my hands up. I'm waving. I don't. And that's because what we saw in that 6-man elimination match, we saw Josh Alexander cost Joe Hendry that opportunity. Joe Hendry did pin Moose and eliminate Moose, the current TNA World Champion, going into that match. But it was Josh Alexander that turned his back on Joe Hendry, turned his back on his fans, and ended up eliminating Joe Hendry. Now, he didn't win the championship. There is a part of me that believes Josh Alexander is going to cost Joe Hendry once again. And then he's going to put a beat down on Nick Nemeth. He is going to wreck this match, thus creating a triple threat. And I think Josh Alexander is the perfect person to take the title off of Nick Nemeth. And then, yes, I have Joe Hendry next. So, yeah, just in a nutshell here, I have Rascals winning the Tag Team Championship. I have Mike Santana winning the X Division Championship. I have Wendy Chu and Rosemary becoming the next Knockout Tag Team Champions. Sami Callihan becoming your next Digital Media Champion. Masha Slamovich becoming your next Knockouts Champion. And then Josh Alexander as your next World Champion for TNA. Chris Best coming in and saying, I'm thinking Hendry's next move is an appearance in the Rumble. I do agree. Josh Alexander takes the title. LOL. I think Josh Hendry does probably end up in the Rumble, but I'm also going to say this. I don't think his workload with TNA stops either. And I think this is why he's able to do these matches, because I do think he's going to be needed for a lot of stuff with TNA, especially over the next 6 months. He's getting that slow build to become champion. TNA does not necessarily always just hand the titles to new people necessarily. But what we see is I think Joe Hendry's popularity is definitely taken even TNA by storm, to the point where they're not necessarily sure of how to deal with it. I think they are adapting very well. And I think nowadays they probably have a great idea of what to do. But even then, it's like, okay, well, we know we have lightning in a bottle, but we also know right now that we don't capitalize on the sales of said lightning in a bottle just by giving it to the first person we see. And in this case, it would be strapping a championship on him. Because just as much as maybe the casual viewer now will watch Joe Hendry, I think, too, there's a lot of wrestling first niche fans that still want to see Joe Hendry earn that championship that way. Stories, matches, that's where it is. Now, he earned, I think, a lot of people respect when he took out Moose. I think a lot of people felt that sympathy for him when he got screwed by Josh Alexander. And now I think, we're getting there. And I do think now it's one of those, oh my God, Joe Hendry needs to be the champion. He has this opportunity. And then if Josh Alexander does screw him in this match against Nick Nemeth, just take into account how bigger the want for Joe Hendry as champion in TNA is, and how bigger of an asshole Josh Alexander ends up being. Especially if Josh Alexander, Ethan Page, by chance, ever work with each other again, especially if they're both champion. Maybe Josh Alexander then costs Joe Hendry an opportunity in NXT. That way you bring Ethan Page back over, then you can have either said babyface in NXT or even Nick Nemeth be that person that helps out Joe Hendry. So at the end, I think this is something where, just good storytelling is going to help finish kind of that build for Joe Hendry towards that TNA championship, because I do think him becoming TNA champion is eventual. In fact, I would say he'll be the first person to win the TNA title in 2025. As I say this, I bet you anything Nick Nemeth drops it on like January 2nd to like Josh Alexander just to prove me wrong. But I digress because I am out of topics. I've went through everything I wanted to. I've taken enough of your time. I must leave. But first off, I want to say thank you to everyone who is joining us today. I want everyone to check out my link tree, Chris Perish. A reminder to go to rugenergy.com and use my promo code. Save you 10%. Put some moolah in my pocket. Also, go check out everything Turnbuckle Studios. Make sure you're checking out the affiliation.my.canva.site if you want to become the next person to be a part of the Turnbuckle Appreciation or Association affiliation program. Holy crap, I need sleep. But also, if you guys want a big announcement, tune in next week for episode 44 of the Chris Perish podcast, where we might see a few extra destinations to where you watch this live be added. So yeah, episode 44, check us out. Yes, I'll be doing Ring of Honor Champions, and that would be the second to last title prediction one. So yeah, for the meantime, and for the right now, I say thank you. I appreciate all of you. Have a great day. And remember, go Saints.
Rip through the clouds, faster, catch us from falling close to